Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Calibre number 3, cover dated May 1995. And this cover is by Carlos Pacheco, inked by Bill Sienkiewicz. So it's got that very distinctive Bill Sienkiewicz look about it with the spotting of blacks and the hatching marks. Bill Sienkiewicz, an artist who, when he inks at speed. And as it turns out, this is the new team that is formed by the end of this issue. This is X-Calibre, we're looking at it right here, with Damask, Nightcrawler, his mother Mystique, and this character over here in the corner that I initially thought was Ileana, Rasputin Magic, is not, it's Switchback. So let's open this one up to the first page. And I like this device of Warren Ellis's throughout the run, where we get an information page to begin with the very striking declaration, America's dead. The creature apocalypse stamps upon these altered states, preparing to take the world as his own. He has already won, but still a troubled, dissident movement strives against the new world order. And then down to the end, we get a kind of recap of what's been happening in the previous issues. And the outcome of this device is that there's no need to shoehorn in exposition into the dialogue between characters in the issue itself. So the story is free to move along with dialogue that's appropriate to what's happening, rather than catching readers up on what's happened before in the previous two issues. Title of this story is Body Heat. Creative team Warren Ellis writer, Ken Lashley pencils, Tom Wegrzyn with Philip Moy inks, Joe Rosas colors, and Richard Starkings and Comicraft letters. So let's get into the story proper. Got to turn this one over to the side for this double page spread. So this picks up immediately from the end of the previous issue, where Mystique arrived just in the nick of time to what word would I use? To assist her son Nightcrawler against the pirates led by Callisto. And we can see that the outcome of the gun battle teased at the end of the previous issue is that Callisto and her crew are dead, murdered, all of them, by Mystique. So Mystique says to her son Nightcrawler, "Still getting yourself into trouble just like always?" And his response, "Hi Mom." And she says, "All right, let's get a look at you, the state of your fur. I've told Magneto the air in New York state is nigh on unbreathable. Come on, Kurt. Time we went home. You're going to be useless to anyone unless we get some food, vitamin shots, and some anti-pollutants inside you." So they swing up aboard her ship, and they're away. So interesting art by Ken Lashley, obviously at the beginning of his career, and doing his best with the skills he had at the time. It's visually attractive art, a little bit confusing here and there in parts, but superior in my view to the fill-in work by Roger Cruz and Renato Arlem in issue number 2. You can let me know what you think about it in the comments to this video. So let's continue with the story, get this one back on the horizontal. And as Mystique's ship takes off for Antarctica, there is hiding in cloud below it a ship bearing Damask, Deadman Wade, that's Wade Wilson, Deadpool, and the murdered body of Danny Moonstar. So Damask killed her in the previous issue, and Wade here is bewailing her death, and Damask responds to him curtly, "Shut up, Wade. It doesn't take 3 of us to follow them to Avalon and torch the place. Besides, she never liked you anyway." So he's aghast at that. That's a nice page from Lashley, in fact. I think it works well with the storytelling. And then the scene shifts to Antarctica, to Mystique's castle. And the narrative exposition explains to us fast hours over the South Pacific bring the Darkholmes to cold grey, Mystique's Antarctic station. So this castle is encased in ice here. And Nightcrawler's complaining about the cold, and kind of comically hoping of his mother that she's got the central heating laid in. And she responds, it's kind of funny here, "Good grief, I go to the lengths of finding a father for you who carried fur in his jeans, and still you moan." "And what a father you found," says Nightcrawler. So who is his father? And she responds, "What a son I gave birth to. Do you know how uncomfortable it was to have a baby with feet like yours?" He's got nothing to say to that. And I do like this. I've said it before in the previous video on X-Calibre number 2. I like the way that Warren Ellis will allow panels to go without words when he determines that the art is skillful enough to convey the message and meaning. So that's a particularly good panel there from Lashley, and it does the trick in terms of Nightcrawler's response to his mother's barb regarding carrying him in the womb. So then he asks her a question he and readers are perhaps interested in the answer to. Why don't you want to go to Avalon? So she says, she hesitates, and then she says, I go to Avalon all the time. I run refugees to its shores, as you well know. But Nightcrawler insists, why don't you want to actually set foot in Avalon? And he insists that she answer his questions. Don't ignore me, he says, and he even smacks her across the face. I get it. Everything they say about you is true, isn't it? And she's alarmed and taken aback. What things? So it's interesting, this mix in her character between being very determined and assertive and aggressive on the one hand, but on the other, she has a vulnerability here in terms of what maybe her reputation is regarding her ferrying of refugees to Avalon. So Nightcrawler retorts and says, you dump your refugees, just like those scum in the atrocity zone. That's Callisto and the pirates. You fleece your refugees. You do actually deign. Even you fleece your refugees if you do actually deign to take them to Avalon. And she says, I don't fleece them either, just a tariff. And he responds angrily, a tariff? You take everything they own. That's why you won't set foot on Avalon. You're not fit to. So she tells him to shut up, says it's not her fault. She doesn't deserve peace. And yeah, it's not her fault. And Nightcrawler has nothing to say there. But he's persuaded her to go to Avalon. And so deep in the basement, descending through the cellar trapdoor, they ride the underground river from its source beneath cold grey to the chill heart of Antarctica and the edge of Avalon. And that's a nice panel there by Lashley. And Mystique, like the ferryman Death here, the way that she's shrouded and pushing the little boats along on the river. And then they reach shore, and who's there to meet them except this huge hulking figure? And he tells them to turn back. The miracle of Avalon is solely for those with hope in their heart. So who is this figure? We get a better look at him here. Lashley getting a chance to show off his command of anatomy. And Mystique here is interested in Destiny and wants to know why Destiny isn't there to meet her. And the monk says, Irene has grown frail. When the passing of your boat triggers the arrivals alarm in Avalon, it is now I who travels to greet them. And I am Cain, he says. And she was about to take out her holstered gun, but she stops and says, then that means you get to carry the crates. Let's move out. So what's in those crates, we'll find out a little later in the story. So the narrative caption, Kurt hears his mother make a small noise as her toes touch Avalon for the first time. As they move off, it doesn't get much easier for her. So it's an emotionally troubling entrance into Avalon. In the course of their journey to Avalon proper, which is fenced by a forest that they're traveling through, we learn more about the monk, Cain. And it turns out that this is Cain Marco. It is Professor Charles Xavier's stepbrother. And so this is the Juggernaut. And this is who he is in the Age of Apocalypse. And he is atoning for dozens of murders, hundreds. And he says he still sees their faces when he fasts for too long. They chant the ways they died. I know so many ways to make people die, and none to help people live. So in the dark, grim world of the Age of Apocalypse, Avalon is a haven for mutants and humans alike. And here we see in this anchor image, Kane carrying those crates to Avalon, and Mystique is her heart is uplifted by the appearance of Avalon. She says it's incredible. It's like what my father told me about heaven. And Nightcrawler's pleased to see his mother smile like that again, but she's most insistent on finding Destiny. And Kane responds, Irene will be in the first field, awaiting new arrivals with her son. And this takes Mystique aback. I didn't know she had a son. Oh, so who on earth would be Irene Adler's son in the Age of Apocalypse? Well, it turns out to be an adopted son, Douglas. That's Douglas Ramsey. In the prime reality, Douglas Ramsey of the New Mutants, but dead in that reality. However, alive again in the pages of X-Calibre because bonded with Warlock. So he survived his death. But here, he's just a human boy and one who's admiring this particular butterfly. And this is kind of an implication of how Avalon has escaped the grimness of the rest of the world, ground under the boot heel of Apocalypse, especially North America. So there's some history, of course, between Mystique and Destiny, and Mystique insists that she never held secrets deliberately from Irene, because of her surprise that Irene has an adopted son. But they're reunited now, and Irene says, it's good, I've waited too long for you to share Avalon with us. And Mystique, however, isn't there to stay. So she says, that's not why I'm here. I've come to ask you to come with us. So this is part of the mission that Magneto gave Mystique via Nightcrawler. And we'll get a little bit more on what exactly that is in due course within the issue. So this is a nice page here where they arrive at this village, Avalon Village proper. And it's like a medieval type village. And Irene invites Mystique into her home. And there's a young woman there. And Irene says, I don't know her real name, as she insists on being called Switchback. So she's the girl from the cover. The day she came, I read her future, says Destiny, we're all going to die. And here, outside on the hilltop, surveilling the village is Deadpool, or Dead Man Wilson, and Damask, or Dead Man Wade is how he's called, the Pale Riders, cast by their ruler Apocalypse in the role of hunters and killers. But Damask is having second thoughts, and she is taken aback by the beauty of Avalon. And she says here, I didn't know there were places like this, could be places like this. And Deadpool, by contrast, is perversely goaded into destroying the place. Alive, it's alive, it's alive. Birds singing, fresh grass, real green, not like at home. Insects and worms busy in the earth. It's all alive, and being alive stinks, he says. Let's go kill it, Damask. But she is not convinced. I didn't know the world could be like this, she says quietly. Nobody told me. So she's having a change of heart, a conversion. And here we pick up with what's wanted of Destiny. So Mystique explains, in America, Eric Lensher, Magneto, has found a man who appears to have manifested here from an alternate timeline. That's Bishop, of course. A timeline where Apocalypse never came to power. If Eric can confirm the truth of it, then he sees the chance to actually twist our time towards that better world. He needs you to confirm it. So that's why, Nightcrawler was sent to find his mother and through Mystique find Destiny. And Destiny, however, Irene has her own doubts because of the future she's seen. I've seen a future, Apocalypse in Avalon, flames, murder. What if that future is instigated by my departure? And what stake have I in your posited, better future? Anything, everything could change. I've so much to lose Raven, she says, and Mystique responds, and I haven't. So then, some action. So Deadman Wade blasts through the house. Douglas is knocked unconscious, he's not dead. And then Mystique and Nightcrawler race out of the house, and basically we see Kane outside, who wasn't injured at all because he cannot be harmed. It was a hand-launched rocket attack from the tall grass, Sinful, he says. And so, you know, we might be expecting the unleashing of the Juggernaut now, but it's not what happens here. Something very, very weird happens. Nightcrawler tries to persuade him to join the fight. So he asks him rhetorically, do you want everyone in Avalon to die in flames? Well, do you? Have you ever smelt a human body burning? They smell like pigs, Kane. What kind of end is that for your friends in Avalon, eh? But Kane has vowed to live the rest of his life as a pacifist, not to fight. And so he says, I cannot fight them. And Nightcrawler continues, even if all your friends die, is that the price of your religious integrity? And then basically it looks like there's an explosion in his eye, and he speaks the name of his long dead stepbrother, Charles, and falls face first to the ground. So what has happened here? Well, the explanation is, this comes here, that Mystique guesses he had an almost psychopathic need for peace, up hard against a deep-seated lust for violence. He's had an aneurysm, couldn't stand the strain, and a brain vein popped. So that's Juggernaut dead and out. So they've lost an asset that could prove useful against the likes of Deadman Wade here, who says in his perverse manner, life stinks, I'm doing them all a favour. Why aren't you using your powers, Damask? They all need to be killed, Apocalypse says. So, as I said, like, she's having this change of heart, and she decides to cut Wade's throat, and she says, I won't let you kill it just when I found it. This better world. So, Deadman Wade can't be killed. And he says, look at me, I am the world. I don't die, I just regenerate and rot. So a really, really tragic, perverse figure in the Age of Apocalypse is Deadpool. Got to turn the page again. So really, I think, you know, young Ken Lashley here enjoying drawing this particular issue. You know, his skills are developing, his command of anatomy developing, but he's doing, for a beginner, some decent work, I would say. And I remember when I first read this issue, because rereading it in preparation for the video, I remembered some of the panels and some of the pages. And, you know, as a teenager looking at this kind of work, it gave me hope that, you know, I could equal this. Whereas when I would be looking at the work of the likes of, I don't know, for example, Del Keown or Jim Lee, that level of skill always seemed so far away in terms of achievement. But the likes of this, I always felt, yeah, I could do that. And that's not to take away from Lashley, who is a young artist at this time and has really developed skills in the ensuing decades. You know, everybody's got to start somewhere. So, but this is a great little moment here, and very Warren Ellis type moment. So Nightcrawler teleports in, and basically he teleports away with Wade's head. So he pops his head off. It's darkly hilarious. And yeah, so Damask here says, like, she's in shock. She says, his head? And Nightcrawler just matter of fact says, I took it off. Are you next? And she says, no. I was sent by Apocalypse, but I'm defecting as of now. This place is worth fighting for, Darkholme, and Apocalypse is sending worse than us on the way here. I'm with you if you want me. So Nightcrawler responds, I'm willing to be convinced, but you should really ask my mom if I can come out to play. So there's all of this. Warren Ellis is having some fun with the dialogue and this kind of, what would you say, like bittersweet and dark relationship between Nightcrawler and Mystique. So Mystique shows up saying to Switchback, "That's my son, he's a show-off." And here we get the name of the book and the team. So Switchback is examining one of the bullets, and she says, "Don't recognize the caliber on these bullets of yours, Mystique. The only marking I can find is the X stamped into the shell." And so Mystique says, who actually is it? No, it's Nightcrawler that says this. He says, "They were Magnum loads for a 44 caliber, but I customized them. The X was kind of a joke." So Switchback says, "I think it's kind of a nice idea." So here we go. It's a new team. It's X-Calibre. Turn the page and we get a full page posed image of them. And their mission now is to protect Avalon from Apocalypse. So Mystique says, "Let's take Irene and get back to the river before you adopt any more playmates. And if either of you other two get in my way, you won't be alive to see the arrival of Apocalypse." So that's what they're going to do. Nightcrawler here with his double blades. It's a pretty decent image from Lashley here. Not too bad at all. As I said, from a beginning artist, clearly doing his best, and I feel enjoying himself on the art as well. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review, commentary, read through of X-Calibre number 3. Really do like that cover. Let me know what you think in the comments to the video. If you liked this review, please like the video on YouTube, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.